Hey, welcome to The Link. The Link is a podcast created to build community through conversation. We focus on the stories of creatives, business owners, community leaders, and all-around interesting people from the community of Lincoln, Nebraska. We welcome you to come learn about your neighbors as we have a conversation with them. Welcome, guys. This is The Link Podcast. I'm Andy Morrison.
I'm Stephen Carlson.
And today we have on Abigail Ervin Penner. She's an amazing artist and does a lot of cool things with her hands.
Just creates.
Yeah. Took the words right out of my mouth right
creates. There. Just sucked them right out.
Sucked them right out. Like a crawfish. No crawfish in this podcast. She's an amazing creative and a good human and is passionate about a lot of things like Jurassic Park.
And getting her sister a date, apparently.
This is the Link Podcast sponsored by Carlson Projects.
Yeah. Hope you enjoy it.
Epstein can kill himself.
The Link.
The Link.
The Link.
The Link.
Podcast.
Do you like to be called Abigail? Or
Sure.
Abby?
Yeah.
Or do you care? Or
I like both.
preference?
None.
None?
No.
Sweet. Awesome.
Yeah, whichever one flows off better.
Because if that like...
I like to, sometimes I introduce myself as, Abigail to people that I don't know, but it's like an intimidation tactic.
For sure.
So they're never comfortable calling me
yeah.
Abby, even though I'm totally fine with it.
Yeah.
So, but I won't intimidate anybody.
I think I've just engraved it in my head that like
Yeah.
you as an artist has created yourself as like a brand.
Yeah, my brand identity is Abigail EP.
Yeah.
I suppose myself can be either one. I have no preference at all.
Sick.
The
Good
brand.
human.
I feel like we're already going. I feel like that was a great intro.
Great.
So welcome to the Link Podcast.
Thank you.
This is Abigail. You can call her Abigail EP. That's her brand name,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How she identifies on the
That's
social
my
media.
that's my business.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, actually, social media is just Abigail Ervin.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't married when I started, so
And you're just like, I'm not changing it.
no,
You can't.
I couldn't. I tried, and there was like a 12-year-old that had Abigail EP. She
Oh,
wouldn't answer
really?
her DMs.
And you didn't
I
want to
just
add the
like-
whole
Ervin
penner
Penner?
into it.
Nah, too
Come on.
long.
Cam deserves that though.
Oh, he does. Yeah.
So where did you get like started doing art? Like, was it just something that your parents taught you to do? Is it like something that you just picked up and you just kept going? Or like you have a really unique style, obviously. So how did it evolve to be what it is today, I guess?
Yeah, my dad's an artist. So my dad and his entire family, they're all artists. And
So it's
there's
a little in the
bunch.
blood.
I think so. It has to be because it's myself and then a handful of my cousins are also like illustrators. The ones that aren't illustrators are doing photography or graphic design or modeling or like music. They're all creative.
Some sort of
Yeah.
artistic.
So that side of the family is just nutso. But my family, my dad's an illustrator. He's been drawing professionally since the early 80s.
Wow.
So
That's amazing.
yeah, he's had a pretty good career. And then he taught me how to draw when I started showing interest in it, which was probably when I was like 2-ish. And then,
That's very early.
yeah.
That's sick.
I think, well, it's just, I mean, that's when kids start drawing on the sidewalk and stuff. But I think the difference is that myself and my siblings just didn't really stop. And so he kind of ran with that. I think he was excited that we were into it.
You had this, a professional teaching you. It wasn't just
Yeah.
like
It was super
like
easy to keep
your
doing
average
it.
parent, like, oh yeah, take this crayon and
Yeah.
draw like
Yeah.
the flower.
Yeah,
Like,
my
I'm
dad was
awful.
also not impressed with my drawings when I was 4. He's
He
like,
was
your
he
proportions are
was
so
tough?
wrong. No.
See, I'm terrible. I am literally probably
Everyone
the worst
says
person. No, like you haven't seen my drawings.
Everyone says that
You
too.
should have to practice
Well, if you want, it depends on what you're going for. I think if you want to be like a traditional artist, like you want realism or semi-realism, then yeah, you got to practice a lot. But if you're not going for that at all, you don't necessarily have to have the technical skills to be an artist, I don't think. I think you can, learn color and you're good.
That's true. I could color. I can do a mean
grab
coloring book.
Yeah.
I would doubt that.
Like my niece has a Frozen coloring book. I can nail those.
That is art.
So you started picking it up at like 2,
Give or take, yeah.
and your dad kind of walked you through it, taught you, or like, was there ever a time when you were like, Dad, leave me alone?
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
I want to do it my way.
That, most of it, actually.
Really?
So, yeah, I would ask him for help, but like when I was a little kid, it was more like, Dad, can you draw this for me? And then I would trace it and stuff and try to learn how. I was 4, so I don't know how intuitive I actually was. I don't really remember it. But I just remember asking my dad a lot, like, how do you do this? How do you do this? And my dad's drawing style is 500 degrees different than mine. So he taught me, but then I feel like I took what he taught me and I made it my own. And so a lot of it was like fighting with him. Like, no, I don't want it like that. Teach me how to do it a different way. And he was like, that's not how I do it. So it was a lot of me throwing it back in his face and then stomping off and figuring it out on my own. But it was more encouragement that he gave more than anything. The early years, he obviously was teaching me a lot of technical skill. But
For sure.
As I grew into like my teenage years, it was a lot of me being a brat to him and asking him for help and then getting mad at him for helping me. So
There's a certain part of art too where it's like you just want to figure it out and create it on your own too. That is technically art, probably.
Yeah.
So you were probably like, no, like this is my art, not your art.
He never like pushed it on. Well, actually, you were right. Now that I'm thinking about it, he really would sometimes get in there and say, "Are you sure you want that like that?"
Sorry to dig deep
no.
into your
No,
soul.
but he was probably just like adding stimuli to like make you like think more about it and like analyze it maybe in a sense.
Yeah, maybe.
Subliminally.
Yeah. No, looking back, I remember there was a few times where even still, he'll like comment on some of my stuff and he'll say like, why'd you do that? Like, I don't know. Why do you make her teeth so big, Dad? It's just a difference in style. But yeah, for sure. He was very, I think he really drove home technical skill early on.
For
and
sure.
then that's kind of like the root of how I learned how to draw. But
Yeah, because obviously I'm a carpenter, so like my dad was a carpenter too, so I'm always like learning things from him, and I'm always like, there's always like certain spots where I'm like, nah, I don't think I'm gonna do it that way.
yeah.
And then maybe I'll like fall off a ladder because I didn't do it the way he wanted him to do it, or I'll like do it 2 times quicker than he thought I could do it,
I've
Yeah.
seen you and your
So-
dad have those conversations. It was like with this garage, I think. Like
Probably.
he was like laying out this idea. He was like, I think you should do it this way. And then you were like, but like, I think I want to do it like with these measurements instead because I think it would look better. It was just interesting to see
Yep.
that dynamic.
It is weird when you grow up and you end up doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Or not the same thing, I guess, but the same technical
Yeah,
skill,
exactly.
I guess.
Yeah.
That's always interesting.
And it slightly changes and
Morphs into what you want it to become.
Yeah.
So when did it become like from just like drawing in high school and all of that stuff to like starting to illustrate things? I feel like that side of like artists just doesn't really ever get really talked about, in my opinion. Like,
yeah.
I hear a lot of artists that are like, come to my show and see my stuff, but it's never like, check out all this stuff on my like Instagram that I made for Instagram. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because
But
I feel
that's
like
the thing about
that's what I see a lot of your stuff as. Like, you'll draw certain people and they'll like post pictures of it, and it's like, oh, like maybe that intention wasn't for it to be on Instagram, but that's all I've seen. So
Interesting.
That's really cool to me.
Yeah. That was kind of an accident. I went to school for fine art and fine art, and it ended up being fine art and painting, which I'm not very good at painting, but I thought like, oh, I'll learn new skills because I'm in college.
Yeah.
But I was actually just really bad at it and never got better at it. So I ended up dropping out of school to pursue illustration. So, I don't really know. It's kind of an accident. I don't think that I go into my illustrations thinking like, oh, this is for Instagram or whatever.
For sure.
It's just like kind of where I unload all my stuff.
Yeah.
So that I have kind of a portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
I still like, I would say that probably 75% of my drawings are just for fun and to keep me like loving my craft.
For sure.
So everything that I'm posting on Instagram is like, okay, I'm up at 7, I'm up at 6, whatever time in the morning. I'm going to do a drawing really quick to get loose for the day. And that's what I end up posting on Instagram. It's nothing that's like that serious.
Mm-hmm.
And the ones that I really like, I turn into prints and
Yeah.
sell them on my shop. But most of that is just like, I'm going to be drawing anyway. Might as well share this with people who resonate with it. But yeah, I mean, from that, I've gotten to do shows, because that is where people see most of my stuff. I've gotten to start like a Patreon page, which is where a lot of my income comes from. So
Sweet.
yeah.
What like I've heard like a bunch of random people doing Patreon,
Mm-hmm.
but like explain to me like what is it?
It's like,
How
It's
does
the-
it
yeah.
how does it benefit you more than like, let's say, having 12,000 followers on Instagram? Like, how does
Yeah.
that benefit you more?
well, I don't get paid to post on Instagram.
For sure.
That's
yeah.
just like a thing.
Yep.
So, and I think of my Patreon as a job. There's a lot of people who start Patreons and it's kind of like internet panhandling, which is kind of annoying because there's also people like myself and my friends and who like podcasting, musicians who start a Patreon and they get supporters who pay them monthly for their craft. So I do extra things on my Patreon for people who basically like subscribe to my artwork.
For sure.
They'll get like stickers every other month and a downloadable print every month. For people who are paying a little bit more, they get a t-shirt promised with every launch. So it's kind of like, I think of it as my primary job is catering to people who are paying me.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, they see everything. Like my patrons will see not only what I'm posting on Instagram, but also the commissions that I'm working on or the big projects that I'm working on behind the scenes, or they'll do like Q&A. So they'll ask me like questions about color theory or questions about line work. Like, how did you get from point A to point B? How did you get to where you are? So they have like kind of the all access to the business side of things, as well as like my brain and thoughts and
For
heart
sure.
and stuff.
Yeah.
So
And which is really interesting for sure. Just like to see like how different people's brains work when it comes to how you do art, because everybody's just so different.
mm-hmm.
That's so sick though. That, like people are subscribing monthly to like
Yeah,
see your art.
it is
It's not
nice.
just like buying a print or like
Yeah.
paying for commission. It's like people monthly want your
Yeah,
content.
and
That's such an
it's-
interesting
yeah,
just like
it's nice
take.
too, because a lot of them, like I felt really bad because the first month went a little bit rocky because I wasn't expecting a ton of people, but then I got a lot of people, which is great. But I also messed up on something and I felt super bad about it, and I'm still feeling really bad about it. And I feel like almost every week I go on and I'm like, I'm so sorry, I'm still trying to figure this out. But everybody is like,
Mm-hmm.
yo, we're just here to like support you for
Yep.
making art,
For sure.
which is super nice that people are recognizing that I make stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Growing up, has this always been like making like art and expressing yourself like something that you like thought you wanted to, like this is like a full-time job for you? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like is this something that you saw yourself doing like when you were like drawing in your room and like being angsty towards your dad, like this is what I want to do for the rest of my life, or like
Okay. I love my dad. I'm a huge daddy's girl. Let's
sounds like an awesome dude for sure.
He's great. I was
Set you on
angsty
track.
in general. I'm still angsty towards my dad. But I think when I was making stuff when I was younger, I didn't know honestly, I didn't think that this kind of job was accessible. I grew up in a really small town in Nebraska. There weren't very many artists at all. I think there maybe was 2 or 3 in my entire class, and I'm the only one that actually pursued it.
What small town was it?
Neely, Nebraska. It's
Okay.
up by
Yeah.
Norfolk.
Yep.
Yeah. So it was kind of hard to grow up as as an artist, 2, in a super artsy family because there just wasn't that many. So I felt like my only job option was to become somebody like Van Gogh, hence emphasis on painting. So my goal would have to be, I
Like
want
fine
my
art
right.
and-
I need to be in galleries. I need to be in museums. I don't know like what else is out there for artists, or I need to be a school, like a teacher or something, which I did not want to do at all. Thank God. And then so I was doing music for a long time. Actually, that was my first like college emphasis was in music. I was in the Omaha orchestra for a while.
What'd
but
you
then
play?
Cello.
Cool.
Yeah, it was fun. I haven't
didn't
played in
know
like
that.
3 years, but it's fine.
Probably still very good.
I don't know.
You're going to
we'll
school
see.
for it. That's insane.
Yeah. Well, I quit school.
Okay, but
So-
like, you-
I quit the music pretty early on because, I mean, art was always in, like, I was still doing it all the time.
Yeah.
So, I think I did music out of fear because I knew that I was good at the cello and I knew that I could get work doing like easy music stuff, but that's not really where my passion lied. So I switched pretty quickly, but, I didn't know like that I would end up here. I didn't even know like 3 months ago that I would end up here. I've been officially a small business for not even a year, and I didn't know what that would look like, and I didn't know anything about taxes or how to be a small business or how to be an artist or an independent contractor or what an independent contractor was. I didn't even know what freelance fully meant until I started doing it, and then I was like, oh, I think this is what this is. So I think it probably wasn't until I was getting too busy, because I was a barista for a really long time. But when I was getting too much art stuff, that I was like, okay, I probably should do this.
you need to set aside like all your time for this.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So it hasn't even been a full year that I was like, I think this is what I am supposed to be doing. And even still, like, I don't know if this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, maybe I'm supposed to be a children's book illustrator or something.
Or an
you
art
know?
teacher.
No. Still a no.
And who knows? Maybe it'll lead to that.
Yeah.
You know, like I think that's
I'll
like.
teach my kids someday.
Well, I
do
mean,
that.
like it'll lead to being an illustrator for a children's book.
Oh
or
yeah,
something, you know?
exactly.
Like,
yeah.
I feel like that's like the biggest lie that we
Yeah, you don't
try
have to
and,
be one thing.
Like like we have to try like and be something.
Yeah.
Like, or we have to be on this like stepping stone path to get to the next level
Yeah.
of something. Like I feel like
Yeah.
we
Like, I have no idea what I'm doing
we
with my
put
life.
we put
Put that out there, looking
we
at the
put
camera.
so much pressure on ourselves of like, how do we get from like this level and then we got to go to this level and then that's how I know I'm successful. It's like, well,
Yeah. No one tells
maybe
you.
it won't.
No
Life
one
is
tells
not
you
perfect.
that. No, nothing's linear, and no one tells you that you have to do everything all at the same time in order to get to do the one thing that you think you're supposed to be doing.
Yep.
Um,
And I
Yeah.
feel like that especially with art too, because
Yeah.
it's such a thing that has to flow out of you.
Yeah.
Like if you're constantly in your head trying to think like, oh, this next piece is going to make me do this or whatever, like your art's probably going to suffer because it's not just like flowing out of
yeah.
the genuine like joy of just you being you.
Yeah, which I think is why it's so important to like get up and do something for myself every day
Yeah.
before I jump into somebody else's something.
That's so sick. I'm taking note of that, like for sure.
yeah, it's
Just in like life. So it just helps you like you can knock something out and then you're like, okay, like I finished this. Now I have this like I know what finishing something feels like.
Yeah. Yeah, finishing and then also like exploring. I feel like a lot of my the illustrations that I do for myself are like that's where I experiment with composition and color. And if I really like how that turned out, then I can go into a commission with like, I really like how that turned out. Why don't I mess with that more with this commission? And then it turns out way better than it would have had I not warmed up. So
Yeah.
yeah.
What you have a lot of tattoos. Is
Yes.
there like a theme to them, or were you like, did you design any of your own tattoos?
Yeah,
Or
unfortunately. Yeah, they're fine. They're fine. I don't mind the ones I designed. The artist that did them is really great, but he's also a really, really great tattoo artist, and I wish that I would have just let him run with it.
yeah,
I think that my one issue with the ones that I've designed is that my style of illustrating changes so rapidly and so constantly. Like I never like the way that I draw now is so different from the way that I drew a year ago.
For sure.
So the tattoos that I have, I don't think they're bad drawings. I think they're fine. They're just different, which I guess in some ways I'm okay with, like having a representation of all of my art styles.
For sure.
I would rather.
I think that's pretty cool. Like, I wish I could design my own stuff. It would just turn out like stick people. But I think it would be cool to be like, oh, like I designed that, like, you know,
that piece,
this piece when I was going through this, or like
Yeah,
this happened
for
when I was
sure.
doing this. And like you can kind of like
Yeah.
point to like the arc of
Create
your
it.
life,
Yeah.
like in your own tattoo work. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's cool.
I think tattoos are funny because it's like they all start out with some great meaning, and then eventually they're like,
Pizza.
I like, yeah, this one looks cool. I need to fill this spot, and
Yep.
they no longer. And I think that's fine. Like, it's now like I like the way that I look now more than I like the way that I looked 3 years ago before I had them. So
For sure.
which is self-confidence thing, I
yeah,
guess.
it's sick. It's important.
Yeah.
And then, like, you were talking about your art style and how it was changing. Like, that's definitely something that I've everybody notices. Like, of course, your art's changing. Like, there's obviously, like, I see that your line work is like, I'll see a piece and like that's like Abigail's work. Like, and like, how do you like? Do you change your art style like intentionally, or like does it kind of just happen on accident?
Well, at first it was not intentional. So when I was learning from my dad, I was doing a lot of realism and a lot of hyperrealism, which is also part of why I did music, is because drawing portraits, like realistic portraits, is so boring to me. But I did it and I was good at it. And so I kind of, for a while, I was running with portraits and I kept making portraits until I like honed in the skill. But then I was really bored with them. And so I was trying to think of ways to play with that. And by the time that I had started playing with a more individualistic style for portraits, I had developed some crazy chronic pain in my hands. And well, it started in my hands, but it's now like spread throughout my body. So at first I was learning a different style to like try and be individualistic.
Yeah.
But then I had to change the style because I couldn't hold the pencil in the same way, and I couldn't like shade or get as detail oriented. And so I changed it to just like hatching and cross hatching because it's a way looser way of drawing for me. But then I got bored of portraits altogether and I started playing with the way that my chronic pain was affecting me mentally. And that's kind of where the little monsters blossomed from, which are totally different than my portraits. And it was like one day I was drawing a portrait and the next day I had these monster characters that I started expanding on that world. And then everything else is just kind of like, okay, this is fine, but how can I make this better? And it's a lot of looking at other artists that I'm inspired by and seeing like what's working in their work and how can I apply that to my work but make it my own. So it's just mostly unintentional, and it's just like I want to make this better. Like I don't think I'm bad, but I know that I can be better, and how can I do that? So
Sick.
What do you think changed about your art when you started having that like pain? Because I feel like that had to have like set something off in your mind of like, what if I can't ever like do this again?
Yeah.
Like what I mean, this might be too deep for you, but like what in your brain were you like thinking at that moment? It's like, how can I keep doing this? Like what were the kind of like the thoughts in your head, I guess?
there was a lot of that. I mean, I've had a long history of self-doubt, but so I grew up with arthritis in my knee, so I wasn't super concerned with my profession because
For sure.
I'm, like I said, I am not an athlete. It wasn't. I don't even need my leg. Honestly, I could get rid of it. I could be fine. But the pain wasn't so new to me. It was just where it was that I was like, ooh, this stinks. So at the time I was doing my portraits, I kind of leaned more into the painting that I was studying, which I was trying to do like impressionistic type paint. Again, I am not a good painter. I never have been. Probably
I bet
never
they're
should have
still
dabbled. They're not. But I would paint with my mouth every once in a while to try and ease. It wasn't good. It's not impressive, I promise you. But that was like, okay, if I can teach myself how to paint with my mouth, then I can probably teach myself how to draw with my mouth, which obviously I never did. Would not have worked. But
all I think of is like I can't remember what it is. There's some movie where he like he's like trying to draw something like 3 lines with something. I think it's Mr. Bean. But he's got like a pencil in his mouth, and he's got 2 like
this sounds
things,
right.
and he's like trying to mark something, and he's like with his head.
Yeah.
That's literally all I thought of, and I'm sure it was way more
no
pretty than that.
No, I never drew with my mouth. Never got there. I instead I like forced myself to just draw through it.
For sure.
If I wanted it to be like my style of drawing without going to like abstract work, which is fine, or without investing in some sick gear like Chuck Close does, then I would have to just suffer through it. So I feel like maybe the pain wasn't so new to me. It was just dealing with like where it was located, which honestly over like a year I kind of got used to it, and I'm totally fine. Like there's nothing physically wrong with my hands. It's all it's like hormonal, neurological. So there's nothing physically wrong with my hands, and I just keep telling myself that. So it doesn't make it hurt any less, but
for sure
I know that I'm not ruining my hands.
Not breaking something.
Sorry.
You're fine.
I'm not hurting myself. So I guess I don't really know. The monsters just kind of came out of a darker time where I was struggling with the pain, the physical pain, as well as struggling with like I just moved to Lincoln. I didn't really have any friends. And I was just, I think, deeply sad. Like probably more deeply sad than I had been even in high school when I had even less friends and people didn't like me.
So what, like, so you moved to Lincoln, like, just for the heck of it, or your family moved here, or like how did that?
No, I just moved. I was happy in Omaha, but my brother was in Lincoln, and I had a really good friend in Lincoln. I liked Omaha as a city. I still like Omaha as a city, but I really wanted to be close to my brother. So it was mostly I moved to be close to my brother again. For sure. Even though it was like an hour away, we would have been fine. He lives in New York now, so.
So he left you.
It's so cool, like how like close knit all you guys are. Like it's sick.
It's gross. We're way too dependent on each other.
No, you guys just love each other. What's wrong with that? Come on.
No, it's great and horrifying.
So how many brothers and sisters do you have?
I have 2 brothers and 1 sister. Okay. But so it's 25, 24, 23, 22, 22, 21. Anyway, 4 under 5. Somehow that works.
There you go.
So we're like the same age. My older brother just moved to New York. He's like the first one to leave the nest. So.
What do you think? Do you feel like Lincoln as like an arts community like accepted what you did and like put it on, or do you feel like it was kind of like, whoa, like what are you kind of doing, and it kind of like took a while to find your spot?
Well, both kind of. I think it took me a while to find my spot in Lincoln. I wasn't very good at illustration when I was in like high school or even early college. I don't think I was really that good until I left college, if I'm being honest. But I feel it depends on which art community you're a part of, because I never felt super close to the collegiate art community, like the state university. I never felt super close to that, and I never, like, everybody's nice, but I never felt like I belonged there, which is why I dropped out. For sure. But I found the other community, like at the Bay, and the local creatives who also weren't in school or kind of already doing their own thing. I felt very welcomed into that right away. So it kind of just depends on which art community you find yourself in.
Do you think that's unique to Lincoln, or do you feel like that's like you go anywhere, you plop yourself in Colorado and you'd find that same group, or do you feel like it's a unique enough thing in Lincoln that you're like, yeah, I'd like to stay here and do art here because X?
I think Lincoln is the best place for anybody to start something because it's so small. I think that if I were to move to Colorado tomorrow and I like applied for a show or something and I got in the show or something, then I would immediately be welcomed into at least the community of like that show.
For sure.
I don't think that I would struggle so much, but of course this is all hypothetical and I probably would. I think that Lincoln though has this way of forcing you out of your shell because it's bigger than a small town, but it's not, it's not Portland. It's not so intimidating with the art scene and the creative scene. It's a little bit more like there's so much room to grow here that if people like myself or like young adults aren't taking these leaps, then there wouldn't be an art scene at all. So I think that having spaces where people feel safe to create, which I think is like all of Lincoln's, like whether it be the university or outside the university, I think that Lincoln is a very safe place for people to start doing what they love.
Yeah. That's really cool. I've never heard somebody like explain it that way, but I think that's very, very accurate because it seems like if you start something that's cool or unique or you feel like really passionate about it, like people show up. Like even with this podcast, it was like we were like, I don't know, we'll just try and talk about Lincoln, and we've had people reach out to us that were like never thought that they would reach out to us or even have heard about it. Yeah. So it's really cool to just kind of see like put something out there.
We're a weird place.
It is a weird place. Yeah. I think about Lincoln a lot because I didn't think that I would end up here. Never thought that I would. And I've lived here for almost 6 years, 5.5 years. So, I mean, I plan on coming back too. So I think we might move soon to a scary, intimidating place that feels less safe. But I think that that's also super important for growth.
Oh, absolutely.
But I also see myself like having a home here. Lincoln, I think maybe Nebraska as a whole, or at least Lincoln and Omaha, which is half of Nebraska.
Nebraska as a whole.
I think that it has a funny way of making you feel like you're home, even if you are not from there. I'm not even originally from Nebraska, but I can't see myself ending up anywhere else.
For sure.
So.
I definitely.
Yeah.
That's why I always explain to Lincoln is like, Lincoln is just like a good place to call home.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's growing. It's I think having just the few pockets that it does is really neat. But I also think that there's so much room for these communities to keep growing. Like, even, I know this, I've talked about Omaha a lot, but Omaha.
Definitely can. I don't feel inclined to only talk about Lincoln.
Yeah.
Well, it's just, I compare them a lot because I love them both. But Omaha, like 3 or 4 years ago, if you're in Benson, it wasn't necessarily a great spot to be. But now Benson has just blossomed into this really beautiful neighborhood. And I think that when Lincoln keeps developing like that too, like maybe eventually South Lincoln won't be as bad. It'll be way cooler.
I don't know about that. Sorry, South Lincoln.
No, I'm not. I live there.
I mean, like
that's South Lincoln.
I mean, that's what we've noticed since we've moved in here, like just like College View neighborhood, like all of like the cool shops that have like moved in there and like the cool things that people are doing, like the farmers markets there now, and like that it's becoming more of like a neighborhood community rather than just like
we
Lincoln
need to get
community.
some stuff out by Holmes, like
that area needs some
stale. It's just like so vanilla.
Yeah, it's so South Lincoln. I can talk trash on South Lincoln. Love everybody in Lincoln. I grew up in South Lincoln. I can talk bad about South Lincoln.
You
only
have the
lived there a
right.
year.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's very safe and it's really beautiful. We have foxes outside all the time. So
We have one living in our next door neighbor's backyard.
wow,
Yeah, it's kind of terrifying.
they're
They're
sweet.
so-
Just
they're
don't
so
take
cool.
your cat outside.
Yeah,
you know?
I don't have one, but our neighbors have one that they let out like
Don't
at
do
night.
that.
Oh
No.
man,
And I told them
that's
about
dangerous.
it. So
Also, birds.
see.
Cats are the number one killer of birds.
really,
Well, that. I might have. I didn't fully make that up. I heard it on a podcast.
I'm sure it's like 4 billion a year.
Yeah, cats. Yeah.
Kai says
Birds?
cats kill 4 billion birds a year.
Hey, that's
Just so it's on the
Kai
record.
chiming in for the first time on the podcast, everyone.
This is Kai.
He does live. He does. He
sits
is
on
here.
a sack and he makes
Sits on
sure
a
that I don't sound terrible. It makes us look really good or terrible.
Has great
Who
bird
knows?
facts.
Has
Yes.
great. He has okay. Kai is like, not to just put Kai on the spot, but Kai has the weirdest like facts you'll ever hear. If you want to hear some
And
crazy,
they're 80% true.
80% true. I mean, he once thought a human head weighed like 50 pounds, but like,
I think it's like 8, right? 8 pounds.
but you can
I
just
have
be
no
having
idea.
a conversation, and then Kai goes, "Did you know that this, and this is actually like is because of this?" And we're all like, "Kai, why do you know that?" And it's excellent. I mean, he just probably listens to a lot of podcasts, and
That's how I get all of my facts. And then I mess them up.
Fair enough.
I'm like, I heard this on a podcast, I think.
I think it's like, okay. Also, man, how credible are podcasts?
Are you hyping yourself right now?
No.
Oh,
I'm just
okay.
asking. I'm
They're
curious.
great. No, they're great. I listen to a lot of them.
I guess I don't know like the. Can I lie on this a lot?
Yeah, this is your podcast. You can do whatever you want.
It's true, I guess. Okay, back to you.
No, I listened to like science podcasts because I hated high school so much and I hate school in general. I'm very bad at academia. But yeah, so I like to listen to a lot of science podcasts because I feel like now I'm actually learning about things.
For sure.
It's fun.
So I was homeschooled.
Same.
So
Well, for a while.
A little different. And like just kind of always knew that school wasn't going to be my thing. But like I took a couple college classes and like I was like excited about them and I was like learning the stuff, and then I'd like turn my paper in and get like a B, and I'm like, I spent forever on this. Like, what is wrong? And like I really like know this stuff. And then like my wife, she's gone to college, she's an incredible student, whatever. She'd be like,
Whatever.
well, you didn't like check off all the boxes that they wanted you to check off. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, cool. So like
But I
basically the
tried.
education system
Yeah.
is teaching me how to do exactly what they want me
Yeah,
to do
exactly.
in order to get the grade. And I was like, oh, so I'm not actually learning.
Yeah. I felt funny in school because I knew that I wanted to make drawings or like I wanted to make art of some sort.
Mhm.
And I knew that I mean, sure, I'll use math when I do taxes, but I knew that I wasn't going to use like biotechnology because I'm not a scientist.
For sure.
But
Yeah.
so why am I being like, why do I have to take this class? I mean, it's the same thing as in high school. It's like you're angry because you have to take calculus, but it's just they make you take things that are so silly, and I just don't get it. I never understood it, and I stand by it. I have not used biotechnology a single time.
Respect to
since-
everybody who uses biotechnology.
Yes.
Yeah, it's great.
Yes.
Not for me.
Not for any of us,
Nope.
I don't think.
My sister enjoyed school so much. She's like still reeling over the fact that she graduated because she wishes that she still had school, which is just like unfathomable to me.
Is that the same sister that you're trying to get a boyfriend?
Yes. Yeah.
Can you talk
Let's
to
have
me
Noah.
about why? Where did this
Let's
come
give her
from?
a little bit. Come on.
Okay.
Yeah.
She's great. She's beautiful. And she's single.
Perfect.
You wanna ping her on Instagram, maybe if you want. I don't know.
Well, here's the problem is last time I did this, I did a thing like Date Noel a while ago. And then there was somebody who was very, very creepy
Oh, no.
and
Yikes.
ended up like kind of like half stalking her a little bit. So I took down all of the stories that had her handle in it. So now
You're just not putting your handle.
I'm not putting her handle in it at all.
So
And
you're
I'm
like
vetting.
You have to know her
yeah.
as a human
Yeah.
to date her.
Yeah. There was one kid, and he's very, very sweet. But he said that he wanted. Oh, I keep hitting. So sorry. He said that he wanted to take her to like axe throwing, which I was just like, she's gonna hate that. Sorry. No.
So you're like the chaperone,
The
like
matchmaker.
I'm the swipe
just
left
the
of
swipe-
you're filing it
Yeah.
for her.
Yep.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Does she approve, or is she like?
She's totally
like, "Come
apathetic.
on."
She does not care at all. She didn't ask for it, but she also didn't say no to it. So
Hey, there you go.
here we are.
There you are. Also, like, you just as like an Instagram personality is amazing.
Dumb.
No, do not do that. It's sick. I mean, I feel like you make really cool art, but I would not doubt it if there are people who follow you just for like who you are as a human being.
My dog.
Your dog,
My
the whole
cat.
9 yards.
Do you actually love your
Cam's
dog?
butt.
Do I love my dog?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I have to say yes. No, I do. She's great. She keeps it interesting.
How long have you had her now?
Since July.
Okay.
She's okay. I cherish her. She has brought so much more to our marriage, but she also she's 8 months right now, so she is just
no.
like the perfect amount of
Yep.
naughty, where it's just like every day
Teenage years.
is a nightmare. Yeah, she's been
Yep.
good the past week though, so
Yep. Until you get home tonight.
Cam's there, so
Oh,
hopefully.
okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
I remember I ran into you at the Rabble skate
yeah.
event, and you
She
brought your
did
dog.
not like those roller skates.
Did you drive your dog all the way from Lincoln to that event?
Yeah.
That's iconic.
Thank you.
But you did not, like, she was not having a good time. I remember
She was not.
I remember I got there and you're like, yeah, we're going to go.
Yeah, I felt really bad. I went because I designed the flyers, and Angie had a shirt for me. And I like going to Rabble Mill events. And my sister lives in Omaha, so I was like half visiting her too. So I brought my dog like 2 days after I got her.
Yeah.
And she at that time was only 4 months old, and she
Oh,
was
man.
still like puppy. And she turns out she hates the noise that rollerblades make. And there's a lot of that going on at the rollerblading event.
Yeah.
So
It was sick.
What kind of dog is it?
she's a coonhound mostly. She's a
Nice.
mutt.
That's awesome.
She's very
Yeah.
cute.
She's very cute.
Yeah, I have
name is
I have
Ellie
an
Sauer.
Australian Shepherd. And
Oh,
so
she likes
like
playing with those.
his thing, not lately, but he's kind of grown out of it, thankfully, is he like figured out he's short, like he's a mini, so he's short. He figured out somehow to get on the counter, and he just eats bread. So
why his
he'll
butt's
literally
so big.
Is he
Yeah.
chubby?
You know, he has
yeah.
the biggest butt.
Yeah.
You'll have
That
to see
is-
him. He has a giant
wiggles,
butt.
He wiggles his butt, but he like somehow he's ate at least probably, I don't know, 15 buns before, where they're just like the little like bread buns, but we'll come home and they'll just be like little flecks of
Oh my.
plastic bag on the floor, and we're
That's
like, Otto,
too good.
what did you do? And then he just like
Nothing.
just
Yeah.
like tipped his head down and just super
He's a
sad.
very smart dog.
But
Ellie's
yes.
not. She's not smart yet. She has no remorse for her actions. Like, she destroyed our couch, and she like when we came out and we found it, she was like, I mean, just as happy
Proud.
as if she didn't care. So,
Guys, look
no
what I did for
shame.
you.
She's like, I found your old TV remote.
I found all the fluff. Look at all this fluff.
Oh man, thank God we hate that couch. Um,
So did you like purposely like put some like treats on
Yes,
it?
I
And then you
put-
were like, I hate this couch, so rip this thing apart.
I
so
told
can
her,
get a
I
new one.
whispered. Well, the thing is, like, she'll wake us up in the morning when she has to go out, and then
Mhm.
we'll take her out and she'll do her business, and then she'll go back to sleep until we get up, which is usually like 7:30. I don't think it's that late. I don't think it's too much to ask to sleep until 7 or 7:30.
I do not get up at 7 unless I have to open, but
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's just anyway, she usually will wake us up if she has to go out. She did not wake us up. She just tore apart the couch,
Oh no.
and then she like pooped in the kitchen too.
iconic.
Thank
Yeah.
you for both of those.
At least it was, or at least it
Would've
wasn't on
gotten up.
carpet.
That's true.
At least it
That's
wasn't
true.
on carpet.
It wasn't. Yeah, I did thank her for that. And then my husband was like getting mad at her. And he was like, Ellie, no, no, no. And then he was he gets like comically mad too. It's like a cartoon character. It's like, no.
Have you
It's
ever
like
drawn
slow
him
motion.
mad? Like an
No, but I
illustration?
should. No,
That'd be funny.
it's so rare to see him angry. He's just like a very gentle human being.
I've only seen just happy.
Yeah, it's him
Cam.
being mad. It's like too funny. to take seriously, especially when it's like at the animals, because he's like a self-proclaimed animal whisperer, which is true. He's like, Abby, they love me because of my gentle nature. He says that, and it's true, they do. But he was getting mad at her for destroying the couch, and he was gonna put her in the kennel to punish her. And I was like, we can't even punish her because she did this like 30 minutes ago. She'll have no idea why she's in trouble.
Yep.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, she's a handful.
When you started like doing Instagram, did you have any idea that it would grow as much as it would, or were you like hoping or planning for it, or are you just like, I'm just gonna put my art out there and just like hope people like it?
Not necessarily hope. I just was planning on putting my art out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like this was like that account is originally like your personal account. That's what you started with.
Yeah. If you scroll back far enough, you can see my bad art.
Quote unquote bad
It's
art.
like high school. It's bad. I drew like a Niall Horan from One Direction for my sister. It's you can see all of it. There's a lot of posts, so you have to scroll way back.
Do you purposely keep it on there?
Yeah, I've gone through and I've deleted a few, but nothing like it's the same thing as like when we mentioned the tattoos. It's just fun to like look at how far people come. Like I don't know, I'm 24. I got Instagram when I was 15 or 16.
Isn't
so
that
that's
wild?
like a long time.
It does not feel like Instagram is that old.
I know.
I wish I would have never deleted all the Instagrams I Instagrammed when I was an 11-year-old kid.
Yeah. It's
I'm
good
so
stuff.
bummed.
I think I was pretty sad in high school. So I think I deleted mostly just like very sad selfies. But I like to leave the art up, most of it anyway. It's fun. But yeah, I think I didn't expect, and I don't think that I use Instagram more as a tool anymore. I think that it's really great for my business. It's super nice that I have people who care enough to see what I'm making so that I can put stuff in my shop and know that people are going to buy it.
Yeah.
Because if I didn't have people who looked forward to that, then there wouldn't be no Abigail EP.
For sure.
There wouldn't be like a business for me.
Yeah.
So that's super nice, but it is a little bit like, sometimes I feel like anybody who uses social media, like I feel very pressured to use it consistently, or else it like quote won't work. But it will. It's just a self-sabotage thing that people do. It's like, well, I have to do this or else nobody's going to see my art anymore because the algorithm is screwed up. But
it's just the world we live in. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
yeah, and yeah, if the people that care about it will see it no matter what.
Yeah.
Eventually. So seek it out.
Exactly. And then like as you like grown as an artist, like how has it felt to like, I'm like thinking about like some big projects that like maybe stick out to me, like watching you like grow as an artist, like the mural in Turbine Flats, like up their stairs, like
That was my first mural ever.
was that really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like how did that feel when like, I don't know, whoever came to you and was just like, I like your art. I want this, like, I want you to like make this staircase like your staircase.
Yeah. I felt very honored. Especially since like I'd never done a mural before and they trusted me with that. They're also just very nice people. That was, I think, shortly, it was like maybe a year after I had created my monsters. So I don't think that it's like, I don't know, they're different than my monsters now, but it was just like, I feel like it gave me the confidence, like, oh, this person trusts me even though I've never done this before. I wonder what I could do if I keep doing this. And I don't do murals that often, but when I do, I just feel like very validated that people trust me enough to do something huge like that.
Yeah. Or even not like physically big projects. Like you did Joe Greer's avatar on Instagram.
I drew him and then he was like, I'm going to use this.
That's
and I
still
said,
sick.
Okay.
I don't know who that is.
Joe Greer's
He's amazing.
a really good photographer and just great personality, I want to say.
He's incredible. Yeah.
One of my biggest inspirations.
Same.
And I like just was scrolling through Instagram one day and like I like was looking at one of his photos and I paused. I was like, wait, I know who drew that.
Every time I see it, I'm weirded out because I also am like a huge fangirl of his.
I'm stoked whenever I see it. Like every single time, like same equal amount of stoke. I'm like, that's cool.
I think it's cool when it's because I see it when he just announced something really cool and huge that he's doing, and I was like, that's my art that he has.
That's sick.
So what'd you draw for him?
I just drew him and his wife, and he liked it, and he was like, I'm using this.
That's
please.
amazing.
He asked.
Did you?
He's very nice.
Did you expect that to happen when you did it? Like subliminally, like not like.
No, I mean his wife. No, I just think they're like a very beautiful couple, and they're like I again like to practice drawing a lot.
Yeah.
So I just like find people that I find interesting and beautiful to draw and draw them, and then sometimes they're like, "This is cool." He actually asked me if he could have like print files, and so he has like the actual print of their little family, which is cool. No, I wasn't expecting that to
happen at all. That's so sick.
Yeah, that one was cool.
But what other stuff like that? Like, I guess I'm trying to think of like who would be like hiring you to do like commissions or work. Like, is it just random people that are like, hey, I want you to paint a picture or draw a picture of my family?
Yeah,
Or is it,
mostly.
like,
Right now it's a lot of that, but that's because it's the holiday season. I typically have a few bigger projects going on too that aren't necessarily like family commissions or something like that. Those are sometimes like the bulk of my commission. I can mostly depend on those as income. But right now I'm doing an illustration, like a book cover, and the interior design, the interior layout. And so I'm doing that. I'm doing like enamel pins for a pin supply store. It's random people, random organizations that reach out and ask for like a t-shirt design or album artwork. It's a hodgepodge of a lot of things right now.
I feel like that's freelance life.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like whatever comes in the door.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Like, how does that feel? Like, honestly.
It's super cool to see everything out, like in the wild. There's this band in Omaha that just put out an album, and it's one of my favorite album artworks that I've done. It's called, their band is Bad Self Portraits. And I love it when they post or when I see like their artwork, because I think that it looks good. And I think more like when it's like that, I'm like, oh, this is something that I made and I'm actually proud of how it looks. And I'm proud that they're happy with it. It's a lot of things. Most of it still feels a little bit, especially like for bigger projects. This book is the first book that I'm doing. So I think until I see like a physical copy of it, I think it's not going to hit me until I'm like, wow, there's a lot of these.
Yeah. Like it's in a store, like you go to Barnes Noble and like you see
exactly.
your work.
Yeah. I have art in one book that was a big deal, but it wasn't like, this is the first cover, which I feel like is a big deal. So
There's some work you did for what podcast was that?
Yeah, I did. I have an illustration in the My Favorite Murder book. And then, I do a lot of stuff for podcasts for Exactly Right, that podcast network. I've done things for This Podcast Will Kill You, See Jurassic Right, which is my dream podcast. It's a Jurassic Park podcast.
I didn't even know there was one of those.
There's several. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, that one's the best one.
Shout out.
Yeah, it's great. I did all of his art. And then My Favorite Murder, the book design. I think they used something else. I can't remember. Maybe they didn't.
That's awesome.
That's it.
Either way, you're like creating like your own world through your art, and it's expanding beyond.
Yeah. Well, that's really nice.
It's cool.
Thank
It's
you.
seriously like super sick to look at.
I'm that. Thanks.
No, I think that's always like really cool. Like, I know like when we finish a project finally and it's like we post pictures of it, it's like that was really cool to like just be a part of that. Like, and like when I had my band and like a song on the radio, and you're like, holy cow, like I was a part of that. Like that's really cool to like have that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That feeling, even though it's like you don't do it for that, but it's also like you get it out there and it feels like validating. It's
Yeah,
like,
super
like,
validating.
all of that work that I put in
Yeah.
actually paid off.
Yeah.
And it was actually worth it.
Yeah. Even I feel like in the middle of like right now, it is my busy season. Like I wake up at 6 o'clock and go to bed at 2 right now. Like that's what it's like for the month of November, and that's okay. I'm used to it. But I also like still feel so largely inadequate as a business owner sometimes, that it's like, I'm so busy. Why am I feeling so like I'm letting everybody down? And it's just totally a mental thing too, where it's just like everybody feels like that all the time. So, well, not all the time. Hopefully that'd be sad. But yeah, I don't know. I think the payoff, like the reward of like, okay, I'm not inadequate because now I'm seeing these people so happy with their drawings, or like this person like actually stoked on the design I made for them, that it kind of like, I don't know, it doesn't put the inadequacy to rest, but it is like a, look at what you did.
For sure.
You know?
Yeah.
You gotta be stoked for yourself. Come on.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes I am, and sometimes,
Just
the
how the human brain works sometimes,
how the
which
human
blows.
brain works. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, going back to, like, I mean, both of you guys, it's, like, super interesting to, like, see the perspective of, like, the things that you guys add to this world, or what makes the world, or, like, what makes maybe specifically, like, Lincoln, like, what it is, like murals that you see, or like yours, or like art that like is hanging up, like that was hanging up in the Bay for a long time, was yours, and like you made like that space like what it is, or like you make like with like the houses and like work that Carlson Project does, like you make Lincoln look like the way it is, or like be the way it is, which is why we have this podcast.
Shout out.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I think it can never be wrong, even if you're not happy with the art. I don't think it can ever be wrong if you're doing it from a place of joy, or a place of like, that's who you are.
Yeah.
Like, even if you hate it.
Yeah.
Like it has to, like, it's really hard to tell yourself that in the moment, but I feel like it's always going to be something that's worth it because you actually are doing it yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you don't have to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's what it is for me. I mean, like, I didn't have to spend 5 years building this garage, but it's pretty cool to sit in here and be like,
cool.
like having a podcast in here, and, just being able to generally just do things in here. So I don't know where I was going with that, but I felt like you needed to hear that your art is good no matter what.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I agree. I think that you never know until you do it. Like, you never know until you make it, that whether or not you're going to like it or not, there's worth in it. There's worth in making things.
Yeah.
Even if they never see the light of day.
And that's what I think that, like, why I like Lincoln too.
Yeah.
Is it's like, there are a lot of people that are like supporting that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even if they don't necessarily like your art, like, they're going to show up to a show, or like they're going to show up and be like, this is amazing, or like encourage you. And
I think that's the coolest thing about like the Lincoln music scene.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, my husband's band it's good. I like them a lot.
Salt Creek, shout them out.
Salt Creek, good boys. Sometimes some of the music, I really like Iron and Wine, and like really slow hippie music is my favorite, and that's not what their music is, and that, like, I've grown to love it, but it took a lot of me like going out and like, I don't like the bands they're playing with this time, but now since I've gone to those shows, I'm like, I love like what these bands are doing for this place, like,
for sure.
And now I like emo music.
Welcome.
Thank you. And Andrea. Still love her. Von Campen.
Yes.
Okay.
Excellent musician. Sorry. Hey, thank you
Yeah,
for...
she pops up on my playlist, and I'm just like, all right.
She was on my daily
Let's
mix.
just
And I,
leave
like,
it.
my daily mix 1, and I was like, this is really cool.
She's good.
Don't know why this is happening, but this
Here
is
we
really
go.
I'm going to keep it.
Yeah.
Keep it. Support you, Andrea.
Andy, how do you feel about
you good.
art? I feel like you're like
About art?
you're like
He
a
hates it.
He's like a closet artist that
Art sucks. I'm kidding.
like he does all of these things, but he never like talks about it or
Yeah,
shares.
what the heck?
shares.
I feel like
You're an amazing photographer.
Stop it.
He is.
He
Thank you
is.
so much. Gosh, just blowing up my ego. I feel like, I don't know, I'm just such a dabbler and I'm so interested in so many things. And like everything that you were saying, like creatively, like both of you guys have, yeah, school sucks and like technical things like that blow. And I think that like growing up, I was just like so obsessed with things and like how they were visually, just like when it like, I'm just getting overwhelmed thinking about this, but there's just so many things that I'm so fascinated about, like cinematography, photography, and like design, or like even like the aspects of fine art, I think are all super interesting to me. And so if anybody like can express themselves creatively and it makes them like feel better as a human, then
Yeah.
I support it for sure.
Yeah. I find that to be true too, where like a lot of people say they can't draw or like whatever, but you've found a way to express yourself in carpentry.
For sure.
I think that there's a lot of people who don't think that what they're doing is a creative outlet, or like just because it's not painting or like music or something like that it's not somehow artistic. And I think that it definitely is. One of my good friends is also a carpenter, and he does furniture design, but the way that he talks about it is the way that a painter talks about paintings, you know?
Yeah.
It's the way that you look at it, not necessarily like what it says in a textbook, what it is, you know?
Yeah.
I worded
Which
that
is
weird.
so sick. No, that was a good avenue.
No, I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree. It's like creating something just in general.
Yeah. Even if
is-
it's a new grain of rice using biotechnology,
Yeah.
where you add vitamin A
That,
to the...
my grandpa.
Is this a thing? Where is
Yes,
this
in
going?
biotech.
Oh, yes, biotech.
Or-
Oh my gosh, full
I
circle.
feel like maybe all of Jurassic Park with biotech.
So
adding
maybe you
frogs.
can't dog on
Yeah.
biotech as much?
Well, for my final in that class, I did use a lot of Jurassic Park slides.
That's sick.
That's awesome.
I didn't.
What
stick
is,
around.
okay, I know Jurassic Park is huge to you.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's my dog's named Ellie Sattler.
I don't
like
even
what,
know
like
who that is.
It's Dr. Ellie Sattler.
you just grew up watching Jurassic Park and you're like, this
No.
movie is amazing. Like
Not
what,
really.
like elaborate on your fascination with Jurassic
Oh
Park,
man,
because
Steven's gonna love this. I'm gonna make him listen to this podcast. I started watching it, so I saw the third one first.
Mhm.
Well, I probably
Interesting
saw
start.
the other two first, but the third one is the first one that I remember, and it's historically everybody hates it, but I think it's charming.
I don't not like any of them.
Yeah, I think it's charming. But the first one I have seen, the first Jurassic Park, I've seen it close to 320 times now.
Wow.
do you have a
Wow.
counter, or do you just know?
Yeah.
You have a counter?
Well, now I do. It's rough because I don't know the exact number, because I probably saw it when I was very small too, and I don't remember those times. But when I was in high school, I faked sick a lot.
Me
I was
too.
sick, and
A lot of afternoons at grandma's house watching
Jurassic
cartoons.
Park.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's my high school it was very bad, not a good place, which is why I was sick all the time.
Jurassic Park.
Yeah, air quotes. But
I was throwing peace signs.
Oh yeah, S-I-Q. No, but then so if you missed less than 5 days, you didn't have to go to the last day of the quarter. And I always missed either 1 or 2 days more. So I either missed 6 or 7 days. So I was just over that. And so I was the only one almost in the entire high school. There's maybe like 10 kids in high school like that would have to go on the last day of the quarter. I was always the only one in my class that would have to go. And so I like counted how many times I must have watched Jurassic Park, because every time I was sick or every time I stayed home from school, I would watch Jurassic Park. So I just like
There you
counted up. I tallied like a rough estimate of how many times I saw it from the time that I was 15. And then when I was in college, like when I started college, I made the decision to watch it like once a month, or like every time I felt sad, which that's where it gets like, I don't really know. I'm just going to estimate here how many times I watched it this time. But then I watched it twice a month the rest of college. So like the last 2 years, I would watch it twice a month. So
It was just
Just
like,
one? Or
oh,
you'd like
I would switch.
or you,
Well,
like,
it
jump
would be,
around?
I would always watch one for sure.
have you
Okay.
have you ever watched the same one back to back?
Yes. When I moved into my apartment on 18th and O Street, I didn't have internet, and I watched Jurassic Park 4 times in a row.
Yes.
That is sick. Jeff Goldblum, I know you're probably not going to listen to this, but are you hearing this? Listen to this.
Yeah, I don't know if it's influenced my art at all, if that's the question you're getting at.
No. I was just curious about your fascination with Jurassic
Great.
Park.
No, I just love it.
That's awesome.
Very comforting.
So I had a fascination with Boy Meets World. And so when Shane and I lived together for almost like a year, Shane Pearson.
Yeah.
And we never had cable the entire time we lived there. And I bought all like 13 seasons or 7 seasons.
That's amazing.
Of Boy Meets World.
You got to do it.
Like in a DVD pack. And we would just
There's one of those
put them in the
sleeves,
Xbox.
those really
and
big
yes.
We
would just go for it.
My siblings and I would do that with The Simpsons when we were kids.
The Simpsons.
Yeah.
That's like one cartoon show that I never watched.
Are you serious? I
gotta do
Never.
I like the movie a lot. I didn't grow up watching The Simpsons at all. I mean, maybe it was just because I'm so young and it wasn't really part
All
of
I
my
remember was
generation.
like Spider Pig.
That's the movie.
That's the movie.
Dude, oh man, The Simpsons movie is excellent.
It's good, yeah. Yeah. Futurama. We binge watched.
I'm gonna be honest. I've never actually watched Futurama.
Oh my gosh, you have to.
I was yelled at today because I hadn't watched Futurama.
Yeah, that was the right thing that person did. Futurama. I like Futurama better than The Simpsons. I like both, but yeah, I don't know.
Cartoons are awesome.
Yeah.
Do you think you had like a deeper appreciation for cartoons because of like illustrator background?
Yeah.
Or do you think it was just like, oh, I just love cartoons?
Yeah, what work was your dad doing? He was a cartoonist,
My
right?
dad, yeah, he still is. My dad's a storyboard artist, so we got to watch The Simpsons when we were super small because he was a storyboard artist for The Simpsons for like 22 years.
That's amazing.
So
I think
I had an
twice. In
appreciation.
Nebraska.
No, I'm from California.
Oh, okay.
But we moved out here when I was pretty young. So he was doing The Simpsons for like 13 years out in Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
And then we moved in 2001 to Neely, where he did work remotely until 2007.
Okay.
Maybe 2009, because the movie came out in 2007 and he was still working.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so I think I appreciated cartoons not necessarily because of just like an artistic background, but because my dad was a cartoonist.
For sure.
Yeah, and they wouldn't let us watch poorly animated shows.
Interesting.
Yeah, it had nothing to do with the content. It was whether or not they were
Interesting.
well animated.
That's really funny.
Yeah. They also thought
so
Cat
what
Dog was
was
just
on the
dumb.
blacklist of
Ed, and Eddie. They also just thought that it wasn't smart enough.
I mean, that's probably
they
true.
hated Cat Dog.
I didn't
All
watch
right,
Cat
all
Dog.
right.
I loved Ed, Ed, and Eddie though. Ooh,
Yeah,
Ed,
we
Ed,
would
and Eddie was
watch
a good
it.
one.
We would sneak it.
Please don't tell me that they took off Rocket Power.
Oh no, that was one of my
Okay.
favorites. Yeah.
Good.
I had the video game of Rocket Power. Excellent video
Yeah.
game.
I can imagine surfing.
So Ed,
Yeah.
Ed, and Eddie.
I
Cat
don't
Dog.
think they liked like Jimmy Neutron. Really hated that. Really
man.
hated the Fairly Odd Parents. They
I
loved
didn't like that one either.
Courage the Cowardly Dog.
Courage the Cowardly Dog gave me very bad anxiety as a child.
Yeah, there's reasons why my siblings and I are the way that we are, and it's because we were allowed to watch Rocko's Modern Life, Courage the Cowardly Dog, The Simpsons, Futurama. I don't know if they would really let us watch the rat one. What was that? Pinky.
I can't
Rat?
think.
It's like two white rats.
Pinky in the Brain or something
Yeah,
like that?
yeah.
Ugh.
I
They
never
like
watched that
that.
one.
It's horrifying.
I liked Jimmy Neutron.
I
I did.
I just liked Carl. and Jimmy Neutron. That was about it. Or like the end, like whatever studio produced it was that. I think it was like a monkey with 3 eyes. It would say, "Hi, I'm Paul," and then that was it. That's all I remember from Jimmy Neutron. I think.
Yeah, they liked the Cartoon Network cartoons,
Mm-hmm.
which were good.
Yeah.
I like they let
Like
us
the
watch
Grim
the
Adventures
good
of Billy and Mandy.
No,
Or is that too far?
I don't know if I remember that. Was I too old?
Maybe. I'm pretty young.
Yeah.
Wild thornberries.
Oh yeah.
I don't know anything about that.
Wild Thornberries, Dexter's Lab, Powerpuff Girls.
Oh my gosh, Dexter! I forgot about Dexter's Lab.
Johnny Bravo.
You guys want to hear?
Johnny Bravo?
Do you guys want to hear
Yeah.
a crazy story of Dexter's Laboratory? I once convinced my sister that there is a secret door in one of our walls that I could get into my own laboratory. And she, like, so I have an older sister. She's 3 years older than me, and I, as a 4-year-old boy, had her 7 years old convinced that I had a secret laboratory.
What a
I was
sucker.
very impressed with myself.
Did you?
Trickster.
I did not. Sorry, Sarah.
I never meant to tell you about my secret factory.
But yeah, Abigail, I really appreciate you coming on today.
Yeah, this was fun.
Yeah.
Thanks
This
for having
evening.
me.
Yeah, I had no idea, or had only like seen just drawings and stuff of like,
That's
from other
basically
people
all I
posting
do.
it?
Yeah.
and I am pleasantly surprised.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
I'm
we
gonna
are
take that.
providing
Super-
perspective on
yeah.
everything.
You're super cool, super interesting, like background, and like super cool how you think about art. So
Yeah, you too.
yeah, I appreciate it a ton.
Yeah, thank you for sharing your story and
Yeah.
like who you are. Like that's awesome.
Thank you for
And
sharing your story and who you are.
I tried a little bit,
No, you're great.
but you're the guest today.
You can come on my podcast next.
Yeah. Do you have a podcast?
No.
Also, wait, before we end this, do you want to shout yourself out? Shout anybody out?
I would like to shout out my sister. She's single and beautiful.
She doesn't have a name.
Noelle.
She doesn't have
Her
an
name
Insta-
is Noelle.
She does not have an Instagram.
She
right?
does have an Instagram.
But you could probably find it if you just
Yeah.
look at Abigail's.
Yeah, I won't give that away. I like to keep a little mystery
Yeah.
for her.
Whoever wants to be creepy has to try to be creepy.
Yeah.
I don't
Not
know.
that hard though.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a good thing or not.
Don't be creep. Okay. Should I redact my shout out to
No,
my
you're
sister?
you're good. You're good.
That's it. I don't know. I guess, well, I'll be at Love the Locals.
Yeah,
Yes.
you will.
Yeah, on December 8th. That's about it. It's my only plug.
Sick. I'll see you
Awesome.
there. I'll be very busy.
Slinging coffee.
I will make you busier. I'll order 3 drinks at a time.
Just don't order any deep
Yeah,
breaths.
if you want to come to Love the Locals December 8th,
December 8th
December 8th at the Bay, right?
at the Bay.
Down by the Bay.
Mm-hmm.
Banks of the Hanky Panky. Thank you guys.